Since you mentioned drawing, and we've talked about sort of the otherworldly nature of these things. I mean, your work is very focused. I shouldn't say focused, but it involves heavily elements of the Fae, of Fae culture, the sort of the lore
Hmm.
of the good folk. And I'm kind of curious. Do you ever feel, or does it feel? Because it sometimes seems like you're almost channeling more than you are inventing. I mean, I'm sure I know there is invention involved, but sometimes it seems like when I look at your work, especially your book One Foot in the Green, which is amazing,
Thanks.
it it really feels representative, like you're a conduit for something. Have you ever felt that way?
So, yes. Whenever I say this to people, I feel like I sound insane. But yes, kind of that's ultimately like how that book came into be. And it's actually extremely weird and interesting to me how many people, after they get the book, will contact me and say something along the lines of that they have seen one of these things, like either in their mind's eye during a meditation or like in the physical world. And they're like,
Right.
"What was it? Can you tell me more? There wasn't enough about this specific thing in the book. I need to know." And I'm just like, I I'm more surprised that you're telling me this because I don't know, they're just like, not to sound crazy, but they are kind of like channeled in a weird way where it seems like something wants to be known, something wants to be made
Sure.
physical. And if there are other times where I'll think of something and it feels wrong to capture it or put it on paper. So like I
Interesting.
won't draw those. It's like a very respectful like relationship that I have with what I create, if that makes any sense. So the things that ended up in the book are things that wanted to be in the book.
Right. No, I was listening earlier to your interview when you were on Mysteries and Monsters,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Great show.
that was a great show. Yeah,
Indeed.
I've heard the host. I heard the host was real dick, but he's real prima donna. I hear he's not, folks. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
we had a lovely time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It was fun.
it's a great show. But there's a part in there that really jumped out at me. And check if folks, if you haven't heard that episode, I'll put a link in the show notes. But there's a part in there where you talk about how a lot of folks have this very fear-based
Yeah.
view of that side of the world. And I know certainly, obviously I've joked about it for years on this show, ever since we did episode 27, where I was very incautious with my speech, and I paid a price for it. And there have been a handful of times since then where I have been similarly incautious, and I've had my ass handed to me in various ways. And so I've kind of turned it into a joke, obviously, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit like my fear of this, but I've really come a long way into to just a place of respect and understanding. I still joke about the fear because it's a good bit, but it really was sort of your work and the work of someone else we're hoping to have on the show at some point in the near future, Joe Hickey Hall.
Oh, she's awesome.
She's great, of the
Yeah.
Modern Fairy Sightings
Yep.
podcast.
That's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just feel like it's allowed for this sort of greater understanding and respect. And I'm kind of curious, do you feel like there is more of that understanding and respect out there now, or do you think it's the needle hasn't
I
moved?
think people are more aware of traditional fairy lore. Whether or not they have any kind of respect for it, I really don't know. I think it has more to do with whether or not you're actually called to be a part of that world. Because I personally never sought out fairies ever.
Right.
I've always been way more into like Sasquatch and Loch Ness Monster. And then something just like took hold of me one day and I just started like becoming obsessed with drawing these different entities. And um yeah, it's definitely more of just a curiosity and a respect thing and just a total admiration. It's I see them as just like manifestations of nature, and that's something that's super important to all of us to like be stewards of and take care of. And I think also that has a lot to do with why talk about fairies and different things like that is more maybe more prevalent now than it has been for a while because of the state of the world.